motion folk, I'm Sabrina Cheney.
And I'm Penny Niederlander.
And you've tuned in to NoGraph, the motion graphics podcast where motion graphics is all but forbidden as a topic of conversation.
The idea is we're all familiar with the social media peer pressure that there's always a new program to learn.
A new style to master.
Endless tutorials and presentations to catch up on.
Slacks and discords to join.
But we have this little theory that what really makes our work interesting is what people bring to it from outside our normal circles.
So here at NoGraph, we push all that aside and block out the noise and the pressure.
Every week, we'll have a special industry guest on, and we'll just talk hobbies and passions and whatever they love to do when they're not at their desk. And at the end of every episode, we'll turn over the mic to our new friend, and they'll have a couple minutes to tie it all in.
This is a podcast about our industry from the standpoint of a sustainable lifestyle and an ever-deepening well of inspiration.
Thanks for joining us, and let's go.
Today we have Rachel. How's it going, Rachel?
Good. How are you all doing this fine summer sunny day?
We're great.
Doing pretty good.
We're essentially tanning just by proximity.
Yeah, no, it's a thing. There's a cat basking in a sunbeam just out of camera.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
So yeah, Rachel, we wanted to give you a minute to introduce yourself to the pod, and then we'll ask you some questions about fun stuff.
Yeah, this is one of the few times you can talk about motion graphics.
Okay.
Go nuts.
Good. Okay. So, hi. Hi, I'm Rachel. I've been doing this for about almost 20 years. That is my cat, Violet, who is my personal assistant. She's making her way over to her sunbeam. I am primarily a 3D artist, even though I spent a lot of time doing not 3D because something has to pay back the exorbitant student loans. And yeah, and that is a Violet alert. And just a cat, she will be cleaning herself while on camera. So yeah, that's what I live. Oh, I should say I live in Chicago. That's what I do. I live in Chicago. I do primarily 3D. I used to teach 3D at Columbia College here in Chicago. It is my first love in this world, in this realm of work that we're not going to talk about very soon. 3D was the first thing that I love, and now I'm kind of getting back into it and delving into the wild world of virtual production, and also attempting to learn Houdini, aka fry my brain. Yeah, honestly, that's kind of what I do.
I think that's plenty. That's a good hunk of knowledge and experience.
Just all that.
And a cat.
Sweet.
Yeah. But that's awesome.
So
all right. Well, let's forget all that for now.
Let's forget I said anything.
That's not who you are.
No. Let's chat. What do we want to chat about?
I have a fun little thing. So I was curious because as we were having you on, we've met before.
Yeah.
And the last time we talked was, I think, at Dash Bash in Raleigh, North Carolina last summer. And yeah. And essentially we were networking, but then I, being an introvert, and it was very loud and tons of people talking and having to yell to hear each other, all that kind of stuff. And then I'm just kind of like, I need a breather. And so I'm heading out. There was like an outdoor space, and there you are, far in the distance on a little outdoor sofa. And I was like, yes, my people. So tell us a little bit about that, and just like, because I know being introverted, knowing that can be a super big part of identity once you know that. Yeah, I see you nodding. Do you vibe?
Oh my God, I vibe so hard, especially because there was a book I read a while ago. And by the way, at this point, I'm just going to warn you, I'm going to mention at least 50 books over the course of this thing because I read like a maniac.
We love a bookshelf.
There was a book that I read probably a decade ago called Quiet, the Power of Introverts, which is this: if you're an introvert out there and you have not read this book, read this book, because it was kind of defending, like, introvert doesn't mean shy. Introvert is just a different way that your brain is wired, and like, but we live in a culture that is so like, this is about as close as I'm going to veer to it in our having to network and talk and do all that stuff for that thing we're not talking about. it always, the situations we are into favor the extroverts. Brainstorming, which is utter bullshit. Even the guy that came up with it has proven that his original method of it does not work, and it leaves out introverts and all that kind of stuff. So this book gets into that. So yeah, I started with that, and like that talks a lot about introverts needing time to recharge and all that sort of stuff. And then recently, 2 years ago, I finally got an ADHD diagnosis, which has rocked my world and makes my entire life make sense. And I'm Gen X. Like, I'm 48 years old. I am almost 49. So not finding out this information until your late 40s, because they didn't think women could have it until I was like 20 years old, it kind of rocked my world. And so some of the stuff that, like the reason you found me out on a couch, way the fuck over there, having to recharge, small talk makes me want to crawl out of my own skin, which is, I know, common. And yeah, that much sensory stimuli and information, too much. Like, yeah, too much. And so I've been giving myself more permission at these events to be like, you don't have to stay in it. Go away.
Yeah.
It's okay.
At one event, the way I went about it, I'm like looking back on my past self thinking that was pretty smart, because there was a list of like people who were already going to attend. And so I would email them beforehand, kind of introducing myself and being like, would you be available to meet and talk at the thing?
Yeah.
And then, so at the event, it was much easier to facilitate a one-on-one conversation, because I'm just thrown to the wolves and I'm in a mass of people, it's hard. It's like actively, like I have to be on. I know probably in ADHD, they talk about masking.
Yes.
And that's what it feels like. It feels like you got to put on some kind of mask or armor or something to really be in a social situation, because it's just like a lot coming at you at once. So it's funny how our minds have developed coping skills to deal with these situations. But then other times, especially when it translates into kind of struggling through things, it's helpful to know that about yourself so that you could actually address it and formulate easier ways to socialize. Or like you said, just knowing yourself enough to be like, look, I'm never going to be the social butterfly, but I could do it my own way. That makes me comfortable.
Yeah.
But yeah, Penny, I don't know. Do you have anything to add? Do you consider yourself introverted, or are you more extroverted?
Oh, I'm half and half.
Yeah? Ambivert?
I need recharge time. I need recharge time, and I can like spend endless amount of time with myself and my thoughts. Not always great, but you know, it's fine. I ran a race last year. It took me 8 hours. Just no music, just ran 8 hours.
You ran for 8 hours.
But you know, in a social situation, I can be very social. But what I'm curious about, which is interesting to me, to tie it into Rachel, we've talked a lot about some of your hobbies over the last few years. This kind of sheds light that some of those hobbies are kind of solo activities. Do you find yourself gravitating? I want to cat out of the bag. Why don't you tell us about some of like your favorite little side passions?
Oh yeah, no, it's well, I have, again, this also kind of ties into the brain stuff. I have about 1,000. Like, I'm not that person that's passionate about one thing, and I'm not that person. I'm not that person. So this might actually explain it. Especially the people that we meet doing what we do. So many people are like, oh, my parents gave me a camera. Oh, my parents gave me a sketchbook. I had none of that. My mom is a retired pediatrician who is a scientist cranked to 1,000. And both of my parents were like, I think when I almost flunked out of calculus in college, and my dad was like, I don't get it. It's like breathing to me. It's like helpful. That's helpful. But I was raised by just my mother. And so when I was a kid, every single time I asked my mother a question, and again, Gen X, this is like pre-internet by a long shot. Any single time I asked my mother a question, she was like, well, let's look that up. Let's research that. So we would go and we would research something, and to this day, if anyone goes on a hike with me and my mother, I apologize in advance. We stop. We're both hikers, and we both stop like every 3 feet to identify flora around us and to identify geological formations and to like listen to bird songs and all that kind of stuff. And like I was in Arizona visiting her over her winter roost, and she literally has an app on her phone that she can now hold up to like get whatever bird call it is. And then while looking at various things, we were like, okay, remember, there you go. That's the one.
Get out. You could Shazam a bird.
I also have the plant one.
Yes.
So I'm right there with you.
Get me on this.
No,
this
like she permanently carries books in her car so that we can be like, all right, how many leaves is it? What color is it? What's the petal configuration? What's the letter? So anyway, this is what I grew up with, which is why I am into everything, and I'm also crazy into process. So some of my hobbies, I love knitting because it's fun, and also technically it's binary. It's zeros and ones. It's knitting and purling. That's all that it is. It's binary. I am a crazy cook from and I'm not making you a duck confit or anything like that. I'm a process girl. I make my own sourdough. I make my own yogurt. I'm the first generation not raised on a farm. So I make, I currently have basically an army's worth of pickles and jam in my pantry right now that I make using my grandma's old stuff. I do like puzzles. Like I said, I read an insane amount. I actually, I don't know if this is a hobby or just a flat out obsession, but the game Civilization, if you're familiar, yeah, I just downloaded it again. I have to like uninstall it every so often because it's too addictive. And I recently just picked up an inflatable kayak because there's a lot of, it's Chicago, and I am not kayaking in downtown Chicago. That river scares me. But like just not the danger, the whatever's in there.
Sure.
But the tributaries north of the city are gorgeous, and I just did some pseudo hiking at the Skokie Lagoons just north of here, where it's weird because you're like right next to I-94. But I spent yesterday kind of bushwhacking through a trail and getting my shoes almost sucked clean off in the mud. And of course, I was stopping every 3 feet to look at the cicadas and the holes that they came out of and the husks of them that were on there and seeing if I could find any new ones. I guess that's some, yeah. And I do draw because, yeah.
Yeah, so you have a few hobbies, and I know you take photos. You take a lot of photos.
I do take a lot of photos. Not as many as I used to. Well, I'm somewhere, actually literally sitting on my desk. I have to develop it. I have an old 1953 Rolleiflex. Ooh. So I have all these like medium format film negatives that I gotta scan in. But
nice. How big is that camera? Aren't the medium formats like a good boxy?
Yeah, this one, it's about like yay big. It's way elsewhere in the apartment already grab it. It's about yay big.
Wow.
But it's a great talking piece because I took it with me to Paris in 2016. Oh yeah, another hobby is languages. I've got like 5 rolling on Duolingo right now.
Oh my god.
Oh, nice.
I was raised. I started speaking other languages when I was 7 because mom did the research because she was a pediatrician, and the younger that you start to absorb other languages, the more neuroplasticity you have around keeping it and learning new ones.
Yeah.
But when I took it to Paris, it was a conversation starter, like, because it's a really distinct looking camera. So I'd have people stop me and be like, and my French is,
I can't do any of it, so whatever you've got is better than what we're capable of.
It was enough that a few people thought at least I was Canadian.
Oh.
But yeah, I had people literally coming up to me asking questions about it and all that stuff, and I've taken it to a few other countries and had the same reaction every time.
Wow.
So yeah,
I really transcend culture and language. That's amazing.
It's also like you said, the introvert thing. I also travel alone.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm really interested in that actually. Because there have been times where I thought, like, it'd be cool to do something without having to plan around schedules and availability and whatnot. And but I haven't gotten around to it. Like, what are the challenges that you face when you're traveling by yourself? Yeah, everything.
Actually, I don't know. It feels easier to me, but also like I live alone. I work like I am used to operating as an independent, just me being, except for that one and the other one hiding around here somewhere. I mean, the challenges are, there were a couple of times, like I remember walking across some bridge in Paris at night and some guy was approaching me trying to ask me something, all this, and I was like, oh, danger, 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 danger. And I walked real fast the other direction. And actually, most infamously was 2 years ago, I went to Iceland, which, by the way, dear God, go to Iceland. Like,
oh, so jealous.
Oh, wait. Yeah. I need to go again. But I did a solo thing, and I rented a car so I could drive around. And
I'm in a circle. Yeah.
Yeah, I only did part of the ring road. And again, the advantage to being solo, like you said, Sabrina, it's like other than having where I was staying that night planned out, I always have like a notebook. Oh, actually, it's literally here. I always have a notebook, one for each trip, where I plot out my little stuff. And if I make it, I do, and if I don't, I don't. So, but Iceland was where traveling alone became interesting, because on day one, I flew in, I landed at like 6:30 in the morning, so you've got some time before you can even check into a hotel, and finally checked in. Then I went wandering around Reykjavik. I was kind of tired and all this stuff, and I am not graceful, but in the slightest. And I tend to walk around with my hands in my pockets, and so I tripped. And Sabrina, you've met me in real life. I'm not a small person. I am 6 feet tall. So that was a really long face plant, like literally face planted on a sidewalk in downtown Reykjavik. Some lovely Estonian woman came running to my rescue. This cab driver, it was my first ambulance ride ever. They literally called an EMT. I had my glasses had smooshed into my face. I had this like, it was a
oh
huge
my
thing.
Goodness.
Oh,
and
no.
there was this thing where I was like, I am thousands of miles from home and I am alone.
Yeah.
And what in the hell just happened?
But at least the country was socialized medicine.
Oh my God. Well, this was actually the best part too, is the ambulance, because of course you're not fully covered because I'm not an Icelandic citizen, I'm not paying into the system. So they were so apologetic. They're like, oh, you're still going to have to pay for the ambulance ride. You know, we're so sorry. This is how it is and all that stuff. And I was like, no, I can't here. Take my credit card. It cost $300.
Wow. So like, kids, if you're gonna fall, do it in Iceland.
Fall somewhere with universal health care.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was
weirdly the same thing happened to me going up the steps of the New York subway. I was like leaving and heading up, and same deal. Like I had my hands somewhere else, and just it feels like slow motion, doesn't it? You're I'm going down.
Well, and
the NYPD cop was right there, not paying attention, and I was like, assistance! But
well, so actually, out of curiosity, what was your first thought when you fell?
I don't even remember, but it was probably like, oh no, the people coming up behind me are gonna see.
Yeah. No, that's the ridiculous part. Because my first thought was, because my glasses like smashed into my face and then like flew elsewhere, and my first thought was, oh no, my glasses, not my
your head.
Yeah. So yeah, it's amazing how we think about these. Like, oh no, it's something else.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, I want to back up a little bit because I had a thought where I find interesting. Yeah. These hobbies, you have so many, and I'm just like, I was taken by like how much energy you have to do, like, you know, learn languages and do all these hobbies, and then like how the traveling, and you mentioned like I'm introverted, but the camera in France was a conversation piece, and I was thinking about how there's different types of conversation we have. There's different types of social battery interactions, and how when you have like a hobby, when you have a passion, it's not like draining to talk about that. It's draining to like network or to, you know, or make small talk or whatever. But like, I know that I find myself holding back talking about my hobbies, because even if they ask, I have to remember that no one gives a shit like I'd give a shit about the thing that I'm into right now. Right. Do you find that it's kind of helps with social interaction, because it's like, oh, you want to talk about the weather? Wait, oh, you asked me about kayaking?
Like kayak, yes.
Do you feel like that's like a familiar feeling, or?
Yes, very much. Which I think from everything also that I've read between introvert and ADHD stuff, because also anytime anything happens, I have to research the living shit out of it. So I've been doing a lot of reading on ADHD and very interesting stuff about neurodivergence, which is a whole other, now an obsession thing. But yeah, apparently that's a very common thing where, because, you know, small talk is very like, I don't know what to do. And but when it's something that you're interested in, like one of my cousins is very autistic. And when you get him going on something that he's interested in, like that is his focus. Yeah. And there's overlap between the two forms of neurodivergence. So I think it does actually help when someone asks me about something that's like something that I'm actually interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, like I was taken by like, you two were talking about how you met. And
right.
Back in my mind, I was like, do I hit the no work talk button? Do I hit it?
No, it was veering into it. Yeah.
No, well, wait a minute. Cause like, it's one thing to like, you know, if you're talking about like the MG word, but you part of your hobby, it sounds like, is like figuring yourself out. Like,
oh yeah.
That understanding. You've mentioned multiple books now, and like looking inward. And so that, would you consider that also one of your hobbies, is just, you come from scientists, like understanding your world, even if you're not like, calculus makes sense. Like it's different.
Absolutely. Cause actually, so one of my, like, I read all sorts of stuff, fiction, everything, all that sort of stuff. But I have an obsession with nonfiction. Like there was the longest time I was reading books that were like explaining quantum physics, but like to a way that lay people could understand versus physicists. I read when I find out, and I read actually my food obsession. I literally, there's a shelf over there of all these books on like cultural history of food and how we relate to meals and food and all that stuff. I have books on color theory, history of color theory, both from a cultural standpoint, a chemical standpoint, where all these things evolved from and all that. Like if I find out about something, I want to know how it works. And that comes right. And that's the way I was raised. So that comes, and that same thing applies to my brain. I want to know. And I've told every single doctor I've ever had, I was like, tell me how it works. Like, give me the scientific explanation. Like I need to know that structure.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's actually I did just pick up another cultural history of the periodic table book.
Whoa.
How many books do you have, Rachel? How many books? How many? No. Quantify it in how many free pizzas you have in books. What's that? 50?
I mean, I've probably got 300 books in here. And that's actually before I moved into this apartment, I got rid of more than half of my books. And then I keep on getting rid of books, but somehow more keep finding their way in.
Yeah.
Like
I'm experiencing that problem where I'm like, if I keep buying comics, I'm going to have to get another bookcase and I don't know where to put it.
Exactly. Yeah. It becomes a decor issue at some point. Like,
yeah, I know.
Where am I putting these?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love a physical book.
I did a few. I finally did remember that these things called public libraries exist.
right? Where you can give it back.
Give it back. I know. That saved me a lot of money.
Yeah. Are y'all on use Libby for taking out the digital books?
Actually, I know. Sabrina, do you?
You like
no? What's Libby?
Libby is a great app. You can connect it to your library, and there's some other libraries around the country that let anyone join. like Broward County in Florida has you can join theirs. And, you know, like, it's not great for like books that have pictures or something like that. I guess it could be if you had like an iPad, but like, it connects to Kindle, and, you know, you put a hold on a book, and when it becomes available, you can download it to your Kindle, and you get it for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever the period is. And then it goes back, and it's free. It's amazing.
I'm a physical book person. I like,
yeah.
It's a personal thing.
I know. I like it too. The thing I can't get around my head around with digital books is I like to go back. I'm like, wait a minute, what did they say? And I want to go back, and I can usually find something pretty quick and be like, okay, good to know. And it's so hard on digital. But on the other hand, I'm out of bookshelf space.
Well, that's my mom, especially when she travels, because when my mom reads like a book every 2 days or something like that. So when she travels, Kindle.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I know
So
she does
handy
digital everything.
For saving space, the Kindle is essential.
It is.
And portability. I want to ask, like, because food has been mentioned, and I also, like, I learned everything I know about cooking from YouTube and Food Network. Those are like my two, they're the gospel. So when you're cooking, are you consulting? I'm guessing there's cookbooks, and do you also like YouTube for that? Like, where are you getting your knowledge?
It's so actually it's funny you mentioned Food Network, because you know I grew up cooking, but it was like, you know, I'm from the Midwest. It wasn't like woo cooking. It was pretty simple. It was when Good Eats came out on Food Network like 25 years ago. That thing changed my life. And I'm still a fangirl of Alton Brown's in a big way, because he went at it with the science stuff. So I've got less cookbooks than you might think. And a ton of vegetarian ones. I'm not vegetarian, but I have a ton of them. Like,
I also like, when I'm cooking, I tend to cook vegetarian, and you save money that way, honestly. But I have a weird thing. I don't like to handle raw meat. It's just like a thing. So, but like veggies, you can go crazy.
oh yeah, not a problem. Well, anytime I cook meats, my other cat like suddenly appears like a ninja in the kitchen.
Too. If you have little furry friends, they will try to yoink your sardines or salmon or anything.
I'm like, what you doing?
Neo can't be in the house with salmon. It's
no,
it's just
he's out.
He wants it just so bad.
I mean, me too. I mean, salmon's a pretty good protein. So
you don't want to like jump on the counter or throw it on the floor and start eating it raw. That's all.
Yeah, true.
That's
not. I don't know you.
I don't know you. No, it's the one thing is I actually don't like fish, so they never get access to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
do you have a favorite cuisine, like culturally?
Oh God, probably Indian.
Okay.
I mean, solid. They know how to use the spices.
Oh, seriously, yeah. That's actually in recent years, actually influenced by many TikTok people that I have followed. Because honestly, most videos, and I don't have the patience for anything that takes longer, a video that's longer than 3 minutes. Like, so I can't do it. I could read the recipe for hours. I can't do the videos. But a lot of TikTok stuff is on there, and I have stopped using spices like a white lady, is how I put it. Like, I'm actually, you know, every time I see seasonings, I like double and triple the amount now. I'm like, oh, this tastes so much better.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a company online called Diaspora Spices. Oh yeah, she's amazing. She started as a Kickstarter 5 or 6 years ago, I want to say. Of Indian descent, lives in San Diego, works firsthand with farmers in family farms in India. So as opposed to middlemen, like when you listen to her explain the spice trade and what goes into the stuff that we put on, have on the shelves and all that kind of stuff, it's nuts. And and so her stuff's not cheap because she's working directly with these farmers, but oh my God, like the turmeric, she has this wide range of spices now. And that's where I get and anything that is related to Indian cuisine, I tend to have from her. It's
check that Oh, that sounds amazing.
It's really good. And they have a lot of really good recipes on their site. I just made their turmeric gnocchi with spring vegetables and then used a chili crisp I got from a local vendor, but they're using Indian spices in it.
Ooh.
It was very good.
Indian chili crisp. Okay. All
I
right.
would get your restaurant, Rachel.
I've got like 3 jars of different types of chili crisp right now. I cannot stop with that stuff. Do you guys have you guys tried it?
No, but I
In
should.
general, or
Yeah.
oh yeah, we got some kind called Boon for a while. That was really good.
Okay.
Lisa will make her own. She's like you. She's she cooks all sorts of food and also cans stuff. We have so many jars of questionable canned goods in the pantry.
I understand.
Oh wait, side story. One time, a dog we don't have anymore, but got sick, hurt himself, and to raise some money to cover the $3,000 in vet bills, Lisa was doing some canning, and she had some friends who owned a local farm, and they donated, I want to say 70 pounds of jalapenos, and she candied all of those jalapenos and sold them, and made thousands of dollars.
Oh my, candied
jalapenos, delicious.
Whoa.
But because that worked, one time we also just happened to have some scorpion peppers and I can't remember, not Scotch bonnets, the other kind, ghost peppers and scorpion peppers. And I was out of town, and she tried candying those. And she basically mustard gassed the whole house, all of it.
Oh my God.
Oh God.
Stick to jalapenos if you try it.
Yeah, no, that yeah, I'll yeah. Actually, my mom's man friend grew Carolina Reapers last year, and he was like, I'm just doing it as an experiment. Like, I just kind of wanted to see what they would do.
Yeah, yeah, have fun with that.
Yeah,
I want to see what they do too.
Yeah, I was like, I'll be over here. Like, I mean, I can deal with spicy. I like spicy, but that's just like pain level of spice. I have no interest.
Yeah, you could get a chemical burn from peppers. It's no joke. Like, these things are volatile.
Yeah. Well, clearly, Lisa mustard gas the house.
Those are no joke. Those ones were no joke.
Oh my God, I can only imagine how bad that was. Oh.
Well, all right. Let's see. I think let's put it out there for one more. Is there anything that we haven't covered of something you like? I feel like you've covered a lot of passions and hobbies.
Yeah,
but I'm not willing to bet that that's all of them.
Oh, there's always something else. Because actually, what's so funny too is you say, it's how do you have this much energy? And I was like, I actually don't. There's a lot of overwhelm and like, okay, I'm just gonna watch. Like, I finished off Bridgerton this morning because that's all I was able to do.
Hey, it's a Sunday. We love a lazy Sunday.
Exactly.
I do anyway. I don't know about y'all overachievers, but I like to chill.
Well, that's actually the biggest thing is especially the overwhelm in recent times and feeling like you always have to be doing something and blah blah blah. And I was like, I'm kind of over it. It's like I'm okay with being not doing something all the time and not doing awesome shit and shredding or skating or kayak or something all the time.
Like, you need a break from your breaks.
I need a break from my breaks. I am a massive fan of a mid-afternoon nap.
Oh,
huge.
Oh, yes. You unlock the power of the siesta.
Oh my God. It's right. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and actually, that was the one thing, because I think I might have mentioned on the comment thing is one of the reasons that I like that you guys even started the NoGraph thing was, okay, it's not the MG word, but it's what I did before. Back, because I didn't start doing any of this stuff until I was 30. Like, and it was, there's a stage lighting designer, this guy, Jules Fisher, fucking legend. The guy, like, he's the godfather of Broadway lighting design. He did concert lighting for the Rolling Stones back in the 70s and 80s. Like, the guy is a legend. And I went to a lecture of his back in New York, I don't know, 2003 or something like that. And he started with a magic trick. And the magic trick does involve a light bulb. And so he does this magic trick, he does the whole thing. And then he's like, okay, so, you know, I bet a lot of you are wondering why I'm starting this off with a magic trick. And I'm betting a lot of you are thinking this has something to do with lighting design. And of course, everyone did, because we're at a lecture by Jules Fisher. And he was like, it has nothing to do with it. Magic is a passion of mine. And I do this to demonstrate the fact that, because I keep you cannot live and breathe what you do, because if you do, where are you getting the information? Where are you getting inspiration from? Exactly.
Oh, Jules. Oh my God.
That has been stuck in my head for so long, because I feel like there's just this, especially, oh my God, I'm glad social media didn't exist when I was growing up.
Same.
Because it feels like you have to have this nonstop obsession with all-consuming passion of this is all I care about and this is all I want to do for whatever you do. And I was like, that's an exhausting standard. Like, some people might genuinely have that. Cool. I don't.
Yeah, like that. What I consider such like an evil expression is, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I'm like,
that's such bullshit.
That's insane. That's like, I love pizza. I'm not going to eat it every day.
Exactly. Well, that's the. And again, the example of watching my mother when I was growing up, like, yeah, she carefully read every single New England Journal of Medicine, American Academy of Pediatrics, all that kind of stuff. She also read insane amounts of books on geology, and is now teaching herself how to speak Spanish, and she is also now very deeply into. This has been a while, because she used to volunteer for a while doing medical care at the Pine Ridge Reservation out in South Dakota. And so she's gotten, and especially now that she also does the snowbird thing, Wisconsin. She lives in Wisconsin, but she snowbirds down in Tucson. She has gotten so very into understanding more about First Nation, Native American tribes, cultural traditions, all that sort of stuff. Like, we talk about it all the time. We both actually, again, awesome book called Braiding Sweetgrass. Because she and I were just talking the other day about where we've completely lost touch with our connection with the land and nature and food, and it's like what it's done with the industrial complex and all that kind of stuff. And this book talks a lot about what we have lost and what we can learn from Native American tribes that used to steward the land before it all got fucking taken from them. So yeah. It's a beautiful book.
We need more of that. We need more being present, getting back to nature, getting back to our roots.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Braiding Sweetgrass.
Braiding Sweetgrass, right? By, I cannot remember her name. I want to say something Kimmerer.
We should put some of these things in some of your books in the liner notes. You should give us the liner notes in the YouTube.
Rachel recommends. It's a new podcast.
Read these books.
All right, let's bring this thing home.
All right,
shall we? And we have a few minutes. We don't have timers or anything like that. You can talk about like, this is where you talk about like how these hobbies, these passions, these naps inform what you do. We're turning an N into an M. We're back into NoGraph.
So honestly, I mean, some of it makes sense. Like the fact that I'm so obsessed with process on things, and like my reading about color theory and all that sort of stuff, or like, chemistry thing. Like, it's one of the reasons I'm really good at 3D is I like puzzles. And it's very methodical, and I can figure out that stuff. And and to me, the puzzles part is fun, even when I want to throw my computer out a window trying to figure something out, because we've all been there. Like, that's what it's going to do. Some of it is just, and I cannot remember the name of it. My dad's really into organizational psychology stuff, so he's hammered all this stuff in my head over the years. But there's that whole thing, and I can't remember what it's actually called, but it's that thing where like your best ideas come while you're in the shower or something like that. Like, and that's honestly something. One of my hobbies is literally, I don't know if we'll call it a hobby. I live in Chicago. I walk everywhere. If I'm stuck on something with work, I step completely away from the computer and I go for a walk, and 9 times out of 10 I figure something out while I'm walking. And then of course, because I have a chaos gremlin of a brain, I figure out 10 other things that are completely unrelated, but I'll figure out the work thing and come back to it. And part of it, I think also part of like being obsessed with all this stuff is that you start getting exposed to all sorts of other visual things, like between the knitting and I like embroidery stuff. It's fun. And the photography stuff and all this. And again, I have my mom's 1960s Jansen's history of art book and all that stuff. Like I've grown up looking at paintings, imagery from everywhere. I think it helps with what we do because especially right now, we're so used to seeing just what other people are doing and what is trending on social media. We start to see all the same style happen all the time, over and over and over and over and over again. And yeah, that's how art evolves. People see styles, they learn things, they mimic them, they try to emulate them, they do all that stuff. I'm sorry, do you have a comment to add on this one, Kyle? Okay, no, she's just turning around. Like, yes, historically, artists are all influenced by one another and all that kind of stuff, but I feel like it's never been the mass copying like it is today. Like I genuinely have trouble distinguishing sometimes if I'm on Instagram or LinkedIn. I genuinely have trouble distinguishing one artist's work versus another because everyone's trying to mimic what people are doing right now versus looking at historical context. So I think that, I think all my weird having to research the living hell out of everything that I do and going wide, it makes me a little less hireable because I don't look like everyone else.
But then you're also like you might not be aiming for the mass appeal, but you're aiming for the thing that separates you. So it's like, well, okay. Yeah, and that's like I said, I'm not good at being. I'm good at being bored, like as in I can just hang out and be bored at my house. I'm not good at being bored with work. Like if I'm not getting challenged, I am very unhappy. Like I just need constant challenge, which is probably why I decided to learn Houdini. You jumped into Unreal and Houdini at like the same time, kind of. I did. That was I jumped into both of them at the same time. And I was doing an online Houdini course, and I was doing the Unreal thing, and then I was doing some C4D job with some very intense Redshift proxy stuff that I was trying to figure out. And this was like last December. And I think by the time Christmas rolled around, I was like, what's my name? I like to think you just ran out of Sudokus, and you just needed. Yeah. Oh, I'm crossword fiend.
We've uncovered another hobby. Well, if there's one thing that's guaranteed from you or your work is that nothing's ever going to be homogenized, and I think that's something to wear with pride. That's really cool. Yeah, it's the older I get. This is actually the beauty of aging. The older I get, the less I care. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, girl, I'm turning 30 in 2 weeks. Looking forward to the next decade. It's magic. No. Yeah, and I don't care as much, and embracing your weird for who you are. Like, yeah, come on, no one in this career does it because they think it's a stable choice. We do this because it scratches some itch. That's our inner weird kid, and good. Yeah, embrace the weird. I love it. So yeah, I think embrace the weird is a good little gift to give to everybody. We'll make a t-shirt. Well, actually, actually the t-shirt I'm wearing says "High Five for Science." That octopus is great. Oh yeah, it was one of those. I'm a little more cynical these days, but I used to go to like every protest march known to the history of man with my camera, and that was for the after a certain person was elected. It was a pro-science march. Imagine having to have a pro-science march. I know. So yeah. That's I think the stuff with the stuff. Well, that's I the breadth of stuff that you explore in your spare time is really like
ideal for our format here. Like that, you're definitely not. It's amazing to me. You are both exploring so many areas of work, but also not work.
Yeah.
And also able to fit a nap in. You're to us all.
Honestly, I think the nap is key to all of it.
Yeah, Violet's doing it right now. Violet is already on it. She's
Violet is right
keep
there
doing whatever, but I'm napping.
Well, she's waiting because I had started to cook some lunch and then I stopped, so I have to go back to it. But it's not something she can eat. It's all vegan.
Yep.
Well, enjoy that. I think we should wrap it up. We're at 45 minutes.
Oh God, yes. These poor people listening to me blather.
Come on. It's been a very enjoyable 45 for me.
Actually,
Thanks
so
so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see your next set of photos from your kayak.
Oh my God.
All captioned in whatever language you're learning.
I should.
Yeah.
Right. I think my two primary ones right now are Norwegian because I'm of very Scandinavian descent, despite the not having blonde hair, and Arabic because I wanted to learn a non-Western language, and apparently I chose the one that is the second hardest for native English speakers to learn, and now I know why. It's very challenging.
Come back when you learn a tonal language.
I just say that's actually the first one is a tonal language. I believe it is Mandarin Chinese is considered the hardest one to learn.
We'll have you back in 2 years. And
Okay, give me some time. Yeah, we'll see how well I do on Duolingo.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, thank you, Rachel, for joining us.
No, thank you, Penny. Thank you, Sabrina, for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Great.
Yay.
See you next time on another episode of NoGraph.
Yay!
Okay. Bye.